Aha, okay, good.
Yes.
And
Glenn and Louise.
Yes.
Is Barbara around?
No,
Look at
no,
the picture.
She goes home. I sent him the Zoom link, so he might come in.
Okay. Stephen, can you hear me?
He's not, Steven?
And that's.
Oh, I'll be here in a minute. We're moving closer.
Okay, so just be advised that there's two people I particularly want to talk to. One is Kathleen and the other is Stephen.
Right, happens right here.
Yeah, and Stevenson disposed.
I think Steven just went to the restroom, Chris.
All those,
Oh, he went.
right.
You can zoom in and.
Go ahead.
Oh, Kathleen wants to be first in the front row.
Yeah,
Can somebody tell me the last date I got regarding Soul moving forward? It was November 23rd, 24?
You guys come to my.
That's right. Oh, I can.
Does anybody remember?
Myself.
I didn't hear.
Oh, I see, okay.
Does somebody remember the last date I got on Soul? Was it 23 November?
24.
What's your question? I'm not hearing.
What date in November, Glenn?
2024, oh, November 23rd.
Yes. November
23,
23rd,
November
2024.
Laura, you want to
Okay,
sing?
we're currently sitting at October 29th,
I don't
24.
want to read.
Did everybody get that?
No.
November 24, 2024.
So the date is
Let's
already
step it
moved to
up.
the 29th of October 24.
Oh, from 2/25/20.
And the point where the date moved is when somebody told me that Stephen was in the toilet.
Yes, he said that.
You know, he went home to be with Barbara, so
Yeah.
I'll zoom in from there.
Steve wasn't able to come on the call.
I thought he was.
He was not able to come on the call.
Yeah,
No,
well,
he
he
said-
barely even asked for it.
Chris once talked to him, and he said, oh, no, I didn't think he was serious.
Well, he was not able to come on the call.
You could probably do it from home.
I don't need to talk to him now. I just need to know if he's going to be present at some point.
Yeah, I
Not
think he'll zoom
tonight.
in. Why not?
Okay, who wants to take notes for Stephen?
He'll zoom in for both.
Allison, can you take notes for Stephen?
Okay.
Allison is taking notes for Stephen, who's taking notes for Barbara.
That's
So ultimately, what you're doing is you're trying to get a message for Barbara.
Okay, well, hold on.
Okay, I'm now gonna clue you up as to why we're talking to Kathleen and Stephen in lieu of Barbara, and now Allison in lieu of Stephen.
Good luck, you're here, Kathy.
Alison has just gone to get something to write on.
Okay,
Here she comes.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Allison, you tell me if you can hear me. Raise a hand.
I can hear you.
Okay, so the reason you need to take notes is because Archangel Lucifer wanted to talk to Barbara. And the
Okay.
reason I called out Kathleen is Archangel Michael is interested in communicating with Kathleen, although not necessarily, forgive my English, orally, verbally, whichever is the right reference, speaking. So Kathleen, when you were seated back on the couch, Archangel Michael had his right hand over your left hand?
Oh, I'll go back.
No, that's, I'm sure it's fine. Okay, before we go any further, Chris, wanted to share something, but God has just interrupted me and said, no way. But I'm allowed to tell you that it was basically going to try to communicate as myself to tell you all how I am or am not doing. And God said, no,
Okay,
not important how you're doing.
But we do want to know.
Okay, well, I'll go with that. I'm really out of my depth, and I'm being supported by a world that is out of its depth, meaning the invisible spirit world. And it's very taxing to the point of being detrimental to my health. However, what I don't know is what I'm experiencing health-wise might have naturally occurred independent of channeling. I don't know the link. So all I'm trying to share is that I'm trying just to calm down and be peaceful, because I want to slow down. And I've been saying no a lot this morning, like, no, I'm not going to get that. I'm usually distracted and do things, and I've been refraining from that. And I struggle to find basic information as to how to care for myself, because unlike all my history of being spiritually open since I was 3 years old, dealing with things that work before the creation of humankind, well, first of all, there isn't any human being that exists before they existed. So none of them really can help me with this, not even world-renowned scientists. The angels walk a fine line as to what they can share and not share. And at the same time, they walk a fine line of personally growing and trying to find out what they should do, what their accountabilities are. So their role of pastoral care for humanity, to assist people who are growing, they can do it if you split a second, maybe by 0.3 of a second, but by 0.90, the rest of the 0.97 of the second, they can't help me. So I have constant starts in and starts out. And although I do know, as a human being who's a medium, how to dissect a second by 100th and accept what's coming and not, in practice, it doesn't afford good communication, because in the physical world, you need to be able to use your seconds, your voice, your mannerisms, your expressions, the fact that other people are inhaling and exhaling so that they can digest information and work on information, where in reality, I get something to my head, boom, got it, understand, yep, going on, next. And so it can be boom, 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 boom. But you could never, in that short amount of time, explain anything to anyone. So God was saying today about how much God uses transitional periods. For example, God talked about the horizon as being a point of transition when the sun goes down. God talked about getting out of the shower as a point when a person is transitioning. When I'm channeling and God is advancing all these concepts and experiences and owning what God is saying and doing, there's a lot of transitioning that is customized for me as a human being to understand, and therefore recognize and own that experience as myself, and therefore be able to recount it in some way, shape, or form to others. The problem is that when you get so much information and you're so spiritually open, your memory doesn't kick in. And though you're capable and knowledgeable to know what happened and how to explain what happened to other people, it doesn't mean you recall it, remember it, or can easily access it. You're fully, well, I often am fully reliant on God refreshing my memory or giving me a new second impulse to explain something. And that is not something God does frequently. I did have a session in 1987 in the New Yorker where God explicitly spent 90 minutes with me, told me to take all my clothes off, get in the bathtub and not run any water, and then ran me through an experience of giving me very detailed information and then telling me, okay, now I'm going to take all that away and then you try as hard as you can to remember and you won't, and then I'll come and refresh it. So I did that, and of course, God took it all away. I couldn't remember what the heck I'd been thinking about at length, what had been relayed to me moments earlier, and then tried very hard to remember it, and then God brought it back. At this point, I want to see what God wants at this stage. We're up to the, Chris is going to have to keep his notebook open as the date changes. So first of all, the date changed when we were looking for Stephen because we were acknowledging Archangel Lucifer's existence before Eve and Adam. Is that a common understanding of all of you in the divine principle, that Lucifer's existence predates the existence of Eve and Adam?
Yes.
Yes.
Does anyone not have that understanding of divine principle? What do you understand?
That's an interesting question. I feel they came into existence at the same time. Human beings and archangels.
What time? Time is created, it's different in the spirit world and the physical world. What do you mean by time? They came in at the same time. Do you mean the same moment or the same experience, the same initiation, the same spark, the same calendar date, the point at which the Earth was going around the solar system? Because human beings are on a planet, and the planet came into existence and the solar system came into existence. So the point at which human beings came into existence on the planet Earth, is that when you're supposing that Archangel Lucifer came into existence?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but it's not really the truth.
Okay, that's fine.
I wanted, David, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Heavenly
here.
Parent to you. I wanted, let's make the eye contact.
Okay.
I wanted a companion with the creation of humankind. I wanted an object. Didn't want to create human beings as the sole source of all things. And then in the same moment, create others. So you have children, your wife's children. How many children are there?
Two.
2, 3?
2 children, 3 grandchildren.
The 2 children, were they born on the same day?
No.
And yet, because they weren't born on the same day, it allows for a meaningful life experience because they're not twins. And therefore, the fact that one is older and one is younger has value. Is that right, Kathleen?
Yes.
What is one thing about that as a female? I'm not calling you a woman because I'm trying to represent femininity. As a female, why is that valuable?
Well, in our particular case, for my daughter in particular, she absolutely wept when she found out that Aiden was coming because she said while she was weeping, God didn't forget me because she never wanted to be an only child. And so she wept and she gave so much of her heart to you, saying, thanking you for not forgetting her. And that was very important for me.
Now you need to start to open your heart chakra to the femininity of God for this next thing. Okay, so can you just inhale for a minute and just do your best to hear the channeled voice of God, but just directly connect your own womanhood to the femininity of God for this next part. Can you do that? When you're ready, put a thumb up or give a signal. Okay. That is exactly what I wanted from Archangel Lucifer. To be able to express joy at the creation of humankind. You have any feedback on that?
Of course.
What is your feedback?
Because it's resonance, the resonance is there, the resonance factor is there. So
Is
I
that
should.
because
be
you
really-
have your own direct experience, you're connected now with the femininity of God, and that femininity of God is telling you it's dead set, correct?
That's right.
So tell the brothers around, look around, make eye contact with a few of the men. If you prefer to start with women, that's fine, but choose where to start. If it's your husband, that's fine, but whomever, tell them personally what God was giving you in the resonance. How did you get your confirmation? Tell them more with words.
Because it was a resonance not of words, it was a resonance of heart. It was a resonance of sheer emotion, sheer love emotion, parental to child, that kind of love emotion.
Okay, now I'm going to address all the women. Ladies, you've got to remember that because Chris is a man and I'm not using a feminine heart to communicate this, but in the feminine, all of this should ring true as well. It should all speak to a woman's knowledge of life, existence, creation. And absolutely, if it doesn't walk a woman in the direction of joy, we have a problem. Is that Fiona I see?
Yes.
Yes.
What does it mean for a woman to walk in the direction of joy? And if you prefer not to look at the computer because of its Chris channeling, just look at Kathleen or Allison or somebody else or your husband, but tell somebody if you have an opinion or what it means for a woman to walk in the direction of joy.
I don't know how to answer that right away.
It's okay, you have answered it. Some of it is to do with frustration, but I want to just tell you why I ask you and why it's meaningful. It has to do with how the divine principle was written in a male perspective and the problems presented by that male perspective for women and God. In the male perspective, a woman, i.e. Eve, wasn't walking in the direction of God. And moreover, the man or men presupposed that they knew what she was or wasn't doing, and then went about avidly writing as to what the problem was, what the issues were, and how to fix those issues, as well as taking a few snippets from her experience, i.e. that when Eve had sexual intercourse with Lucifer, elements were transferred. We all understand that concept, correct? Andrew, you've just popped up on Chris's screen. Is that right? We
Yes,
understand
correct.
the concept, elements transferred?
Yes, that's what it says in the divine principle.
Okay, let's have somebody clap their hands in, assuming it's New York, so that the screen goes back there, the audio kicks in. Sorry, Andrew, but I need to see everybody, not you.
You can change it to,
Oh, sorry. Good for you.
you can change it to gallery view as opposed to speaker view, and then you'll see everybody at the same time.
Thank you. I did
The
not know
upper-
you were there.
Upper right corner.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Thanks for the
Um,
microphone, Mark.
And that changes things. So what has changed for me is I can see my own image more, and that's
Right.
distracting because God was actually having me zero my eyes into the people in New York so that I could, so they could, for a subject-object discourse. But now that I know that, I can
You can flip it back and forth.
manage that. Hold on, everyone, while I witness. Okay, now hordes and hordes of people are coming in. There's Genghis Khan, Marie Antoinette, John Smith, Teddy Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt, Susan B. Anthony, Hyojin Punjanem father, father's mother, father's father, father's father's father, father's 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 father, all the way back to Adam. All those men are in the line, and they're now all part of the gallery view. Okay, so now we have basically the who's who of the spirit world participating in the gallery view.
We should be able to zoom with
So
that.
at this stage, down here, I'm changing how much Chris is giving of his personality. So I've just decreased it by 1/10%. Why is it relevant?
Can you do
I want
something?
I want everyone to a certain amount of degree to be using your knowledge of divine principle in this conference. So according to the principle, we need subject-object relationship, and that's really quite important for joy, but we also just need it for many other things, including four-position foundation. So if Chris is channeling in a specific way, that's a certain form of give and take action with yourselves, because he's your brother. However, if I deduct his ability to participate as himself, then the subject-object relationship between himself and yourselves and your brother changes. But also, if I then include a wider group or community from the invisible spirit world, notice Chris didn't mention a single angel in the gallery view. It was everything. So just so you understand Chris's eyes, so his camera is over there, but his images are over there. So he's being focused there. He attempted to turn his monitor off and just look at his laptop, but I didn't support that, so that he could have a direct eye like this. But if he does this, he can't see you at all because the screen's over there. So this is not some odd reality due to the spirit world. This is just how in the physical world, the computer and monitor are constructed in terms of the direction of his eyes. It also impacts what countenance, but it also gives me a certain advantage because in a way, if you think about Roman coins and the profile, you get a better profile of God channeling. All right. So let's go back to some really basic information. We're going to go back to rather skimpily covered information in the principle of creation about the creation of life. So in this word, can we or can we not use the word life to describe angels and people, or is it just people and physically alive people and ascended human beings? Does life include those angels that were created and or angels that are birthed? Laura?
Yes.
Louise?
Yes,
Mark?
Yes.
Why does it, Mark, why? Why does it include those angels? Why do we use the word life to include that?
Well, because life is really talking about the spirit behind the entity, whether it's a spiritual entity or a physical entity. So to me, the definition of life is beyond the physical, biological, but it includes spiritual entities.
Okay, I agree. We're going to speed right ahead with you, Mark. What is the difference between your wife Kim's spirit and your wife Kim's soul?
Oh, boy.
Mhm.
I would perceive that soul is much more of the feminine essence of God, whereas the spirit has more of the outer characteristics that are more particular to her being.
Okay, for you as a man who wants to reunite with her and assuming that you enjoy lovemaking, you want to continue your marital relationship, you look forward to that, you need something tangible. To put it bluntly, you'll need a vagina because you have a penis, and you need something tangible to have meaningful intercourse and sexual union and relationship. If it's really difficult to have intercourse with the soul, but with a spirit you can, right? You can kiss the lips of a spirit woman, but it's hard to kiss the lips of your wife's soul, isn't it?
That would make sense.
Do you think she would struggle similarly? She could kiss your spirit lips and possibly your physical lips because she's a spirit woman. But
Yes.
she would struggle to kiss your soul.
Yes.
But let's assume your upbringing was different, that you were not an only child, that you were one of 8, you were the oldest, and 4 of your youngest siblings died early, 2 of them really tragic deaths. That would really impact your life quite differently because you would feel regret that you didn't do more to protect those that died a tragic death. You would feel concern for your parents and your siblings as the oldest. You would be struggling to try to understand how to fit in and how to care for your entire family. And you might neglect yourself because you're the oldest child in that family. You may not take care of yourself, and your soul, for want of a better word, it may suffer. In that description, if you had been put in that position, do you think that might have been your circumstance, Mark?
Yes, I can relate to that.
And it's an important one for you because you yourself have more than one child. And you want to know what the dynamic in the family and who is happy and who is struggling and who needs what and how it all works. And also it's a lesson to you personally from God, i.e. don't forget caring for yourself. And so I'm not going to come as God, the creator, and channel through Christopher Kraft a message, take care of yourself. But you can pretty much hear the pennies dropping everywhere that maybe that's important, and others will pick up on that and say, Mark, are you caring for yourself? Because we are not here today only to reconcile the dawn of creation. We're here to reconcile the creation, and each one of you is part of the creation. And reconciling is what brings us joy. Did you get that? Reconciling is what brings us joy. We're now at July 16th, 2024 with Soul. Glenn, why are we at July 16th? Why did we move forward after that discourse with Mark Barry about soul, Kim, caring for others and caring for self, and reconciliation being a part of how joy is secured or procured?
Well, if you include all of that content, starting with the clarity about soul and spirit, and to bring it forward to reconciling as being the foundational to joy, that's a lot of growth opportunity there. So I suppose that's how it happened that we advanced.
You're right. And building on yet, I've been addressing Glenn directly, but the question is also for Louise. So it means both of you as parents and couples, a husband. It means that you now know for your own biological family, well, if we want everyone in the family reconciled, whenever we get it, we should be seeing joy. There should be a lot of joy in the family.
Oh, yes.
And that kind of joy should be the fruits of the tree that, we've reached a level of joy once again in our family because of meaningful, valued reconciliation. The problem, of course, here, again, as I'm speaking through a man, Louise, you're less likely to want to be sensitive as Kathleen, so I'm not going to put you through that. But if we'd done the same thing and had you connected to God's femininity, you would then feel exactly those words, but not channeled through a male medium, but from the femininity of God to yourself, what it means, reconciliation for yourself as a human. I'm not going to use the word woman, female. So we have situations where with the Brooks, with Cynthia, they have represented an attitude of unconditional love. Am I correct, Robert and Laura?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And they're not particularly interested in anyone that is judgmental of her as a female or an angel or an angel who had not been an archangel or an angel, whatever herself, her parameters, but particularly where the judgment tends to come is with regard to history. Laura, can you put yourself on camera, please?
Yes.
See you later.
Thank you, thank you.
You,
Hi.
I am speaking about you. I'd rather be speaking to you and include you. The heart of God is quite clear, isn't it, with regard to Cynthia?
Absolutely, yes.
But it's not clear to other people in the spirit world. You and I'm sure you and Robert deduced that,
Yes,
sadly.
sadly.
And also maybe a little bit invasively, because you didn't necessarily sign up to help everybody in the spirit world figure everything out. But
No,
to
no,
a certain extent,
that's a bit
you
much.
might go along with a few things. Is that right?
Yes, it's true.
Within reason. And
Within reason,
certainly,
yes.
and if it ever gets to a point where it's not respectful, you're out of there like that, right?
Probably, I have a problem with that, but probably.
Okay, well, that just means your heart's growing if you can love people unconditionally, even if they don't respect you. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
If you don't want to be in the hot seat, you can switch back with Adruma.
Mookie's over here, Mookie.
Hi, Mookie. Okay, so let me regroup. We're now at the 12th of June, 2024. Is everybody, I'm hoping, Glenn, you're writing all these dates down. If you haven't been, you can start.
I have not been, but I'm sure Kathleen has.
Okay. Then you might need to defer to her for dates. So the 12th of June, so what pivoted us forward on soul returning? Well, first of all, reconciliation is where we started, but then we started to zoom away from the full gallery of humanity. We started talking about angels. I asked to speak for a moment to Laura about Archangel Cynthia. I asked to seeking confirmation I asked to speak in order to get confirmation, but also to sort of move things a little in heart and mind with Kathleen and also with Laura, because we have archangels who are trying to figure out their reference point to soul. Is Stephen here now?
No,
No, Barbara's sick. He went home to take care of her, I think.
Oh, okay, that's all right. So the point is that Lucifer is an emotionally indebted by his own choice person to Barbara. He's very, very grateful to Barbara. So she has no idea how much she's given to him. So it's extremely powerful. And so that is point like what Kathleen felt with God, that Lucifer felt with Barbara. That's just a trust. And so this is also quite an amazing testimony, because every unificationist has always been taught that the relationship between Archangel Lucifer and a female, i.e. Eve, is not one of trust. So then to have Lucifer be in a position of trusting a human woman, i.e. an incarnate woman, amazing. And so as he finds his soul, he's looking for a connection. We have Archangel Michael, very connected to Kathleen, similarly looking for a connection. And we have a relationship of love between the Brooks and Cynthia, between her and them and her, and they're looking for a connection. We have other archangels quietly in the background, like Archangel Raphael, Aphana, involved and in a point of growth. We have a mistaken understanding that in order to fix everything, in the end, everything should be healed. That is not how we fix the creation, that everything is healed. Because if you look at the creation, sometimes a tree is hacked and it will never heal. If it's just marred to get maple syrup out of it, it may try to self-heal. If you cut your finger in the garden, it may heal. If you cut your wrist on a chainsaw, it may never heal. You may never get it back. The body may never fully heal. You may have a stub and you may have to get a prosthetic. And so healing is there to bring things back to where they were, if, so to speak, if and when it can happen. But healing is not what Mother, Father, God is looking for to finalize the return of creation to her. Have you got it word for word there, Kathleen? Healing is not what Mother God is looking for, Father God, to have creation return to her, or did I say it differently? You're recording, you can get it exactly later.
Okay,
The point here is that a lot, if we talk about Basham Island, unificationists who struggled in the unification environment attempted to self-heal. They attempted to acknowledge the difficulty of history. They attempted to acknowledge the struggles in history. They attempted to acknowledge the pain in their lives. They attempted to acknowledge the hurt they felt in their blessings. They attempted to acknowledge the hurt they felt when children were born with disabilities or died or committed suicide or were murdered. They attempted to take responsibility for God's emotion, for theirs emotion, for their lives, for their direction, for their will. Where are you going, David?
I'm just standing here.
Can you stay on camera, please? I need you there. If you need a pee, go pee and then come back.
No, I was putting another log on the fire.
Okay, you're not necessarily immaterial here. I appreciate your attitude of serving in the background, but sometimes in your life, Mr. Burton, you will be front and center. I really want you all to understand that at the dawn of creation, God had many hopes, okay? And the ultimate joy that a parent feels is when their kids are secure, when they're doing well, when they're making choices, when they're involved in positive, constructive relationships, when they have ambitions and goals, when they're living and enjoying life, okay? And maybe then when you see all of that as a parent, you might say, well, now I can relax. You know, now I can relax because everybody's okay, all the relationships okay, they all have a plan for their life, their health and well-being is all good, and mother in the family, father in the family, uncle, auntie, sister, brother, niece, nephew, whomever you survey in the extended family, everybody agrees the extended family is doing really well. And so now as parents, we can lower our shoulders, we can inhale, we can relax, we can feel hope. Okay, now I may have overemphasized it because certainly in life you can relax from day to day and you can have a soothing massage or a spa or have an orgasm with your partner and enjoy love. But ultimately, you still have to wake up and dialogue with members of your own family. And if it's not going well, then that impacts joy. Does anybody want to disagree with any of that monologue, or are people basically okay with it?
Okay,
It's good.
Okay, I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Okay. And that's true of women, ladies,
Yes.
Yes,
and men.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only difference is that women would immediately be trying to look for connecting to God and the femininity and the masculinity to see what they could do to soothe, how to welcome, how to care for, how to make a bed, how to hug, how to embrace, how to inquire of a husband if he's loving his wife. Doesn't have to be a mother only talking to her daughters. And so men would be stepping back a bit, thinking, what do we need? What is God doing? What's called for here? What's the bigger picture? Now, obviously, that's not trying to pigeonhole men and women as always doing that, but there is a tendency in the current Western culture to do those sorts of things. Where'd you go, Adruma?
Just checking on the speaker.
Not too much.
I'm back.
You don't want to do that kind of thing, because when each of you moves, you change up anywhere from 50,000 to 50 million people suddenly can't hear anymore.
Oh, geez. That's why I'm off.
So
camera.
depending on if you've got 50 million connected to you, you want to go have a pee, and they're like, just wet your pants. I want to hear.
Well, if I was alone, I'd take out a jar, but you know, it's one
Yeah.
of ladies suit. Hi. Oh, God. God.
You just have to wait for the whole spirit world to, some appreciated that, and then they're rolling in laughter, and others are like, holy shit, stop dicking around. I want to hear the next thing.
Oh, God.
Hard for parents to please all people all the time.
I'll just.
We're trying.
The Adruma moves and we can't move because that's 50,000 people.
So when the divine principle was taught, it was often taught from the point of view that three specific angels, all of whom were male, that being Lucifer, Gabriel, Michael, but usually in a different order, usually Lucifer, Michael, Gabriel, that all of these angels would have predated the first family, i.e. Eve and Adam's family, or even Adam himself. And that, you know, on that big word, two letters, capital W-E, we, you know, let us create, you know, in Genesis, that I, God, am speaking to angels. But from a Black Book point of view, it's really more emphasized that the main protagonists that I'm speaking to are archangels who have a certain degree of responsibility and accountability. Although I promise you that many lecturers wouldn't have talked about accountability in their lecture, it would just be responsibility. And that based on that, the creation could then begin to consider, you know, creating fish and animals and planets and galaxies and anything that exists, and then fundamentally coming to the point of creating Eve and Adam. With the unification, is the average unification is stepping back and saying, well, I don't really know that Adam was created first, and I don't really know that Eve was from his rib. That seems a bit far-fetched, but I can let that go. It's not a biggie for me. It's a bit prejudicial, but anyway, the point is this lecture is advising me that God created, and God was creating with others, and the others are angels, and the main persons, not human persons, that God was speaking to was angels. And of course, I've still not clarified ever really with Chris whether from the word go there were female angels or not. Okay, I'm working with all the concepts which have gone through history which say they weren't. Okay, but I've never actually said one way or the other. And my addresses allow for people to resolve issues without having to specify specific. I don't think we will talk about whether female angels were created from the word get-go, whatever the word get-go means, i.e. before Eve and Adam. Did you catch that, David?
Yes.
I don't think we will ever do that until we've addressed this problem of the soul of angels. Because the care, and this is really important, where you open your hearts and your minds here, and then think about what you want in your life, control your own will. But where I'm going next, whether you're a woman or a man in the room, check your heart, try to have it open. If you need to protect it, protect it. If you feel safe and comfortable, over to you whether you protect your heart or your mind. You've got a responsibility to care for angels, true or false? And so if they feel disenfranchised in any way, is that your responsibility?
Yes.
Yes.
What we don't know is what is the responsibility? How much is the responsibility? How do you fulfill it? When do you fulfill it? Okay, so I want to interject how Lucifer began to tackle this issue. He dealt with time and when, okay? And coincidentally, Earth and science working together, i.e. your work in Pennsylvania and Delaware, Allison, with time and scientists. But we are talking in a religious and non-religious concept where Lucifer came on the phone and basically said in that channel, by the way, I have a child born on the 12th of February, 2023. Well, how is that possible? Because it's January, February hasn't occurred yet on Earth. But yes, it's actually happened. And so he then says to them, well, time is out of sync. But we don't get to the point where, other than to Chris, certainly not to Laura and Robert, Lucifer doesn't begin to communicate about why. Why is this happening? Why? Okay, and then the Brooks asked, well, is the second name like the other kid's going to be Louise? And the inference is maybe not until actually 12 February 2023 occurs. Do we discuss that? The only thing that Lucifer subsequently said is with the name John, Jane, as same as spelling as Jane, that Lucifer is probably going to drop the E on the 12th of February when the actual clock, okay, with Pharaoh's agreement, of course. And the silent E is meant to sort of annotate the concept of time being out of sync, but pronouncing it as John. So if you had Jan, depending on the European extraction in the name, Dutch or whatever, Jan, Don, the vowel A can be pronounced in so many ways that John could be seen as a correct name for a daughter. They have done their medical test in the spirit world, okay? And even though the child is not conceived Earth time, the fourth child is going to be a boy, genetically.
Oh, congratulations.
Well.
I wanted twins.
So we're talking about them already knowing in the spirit world that Farah is pregnant with their fourth child, their second son, okay? We need to talk about this because I don't want anybody in the spirit world who's hung up on Cain, Abel, and second sons to start pissing in the wrong pond. Do we know what we're talking about here? Does everybody get the idea? Not if you think you have an inkling of what I'm talking about. Not everybody's nodding, so
I'm
Yeah,
nodding.
yeah.
You can't see me, but I'm nodding.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm nodding
okay.
too.
So we don't need to go into that. We just know that people with strong opinions about Cain and Abel can really destroy an atmosphere. If they're not connected to God, if their motivation isn't right, and even if their motivation is right and they are connected to God, if they speak when they shouldn't be speaking, or wink when they shouldn't be winking, or frown when they shouldn't be frowning, or smile when they shouldn't be smiling, those are all signals that other people and beings can recognize. And it can be very hurtful and very detrimental to what is really the goal of God. And definitely not supporting quick reconciliation. It elongates reconciliation. Now that's an interesting concept, that Cain and Abel has elongated reconciliation. What does that mean to you, Glenn?
That means that the whole concept that we've been given biblically and perpetuated through unificationism of this rigid process of relationship between Cain and Abel, that's really blocked a proper healing of the relation between the first.
Can I change your word to hamper?
Yeah.
Hampered?
Yes, hampered. the relationship.
It basically hampered the goal of creation, okay? Because the goal of creation is joy. And so if you don't get joy as quick as you can get it, that's something that's contributing. It's a factor that's hampering. And Mark, if we're going to want to have reunified Korea, if anything is contributing to that not happening, then that's hampering it or preventing it or outright making it worse. So the problem we have here is that the Black Book was written cleverly, and if you think sometimes it was done with the wrong motivation, slyly or deviously, to make sure that men, particularly males, would be able to dominate Lucifer again and get him to submit and surrender. Then from their perspective, that's all okay. You can prevent God from having joy, because that's okay, because eventually God will have joy, and the end may not justify the means, but nonetheless, it will get something to God, and the something will be that Lucifer will once again own up to the fact that he screwed Adam's wife and come apologizing with his hand on his cock and say to Adam, "This is my dick. I'm sorry I fucked your wife," you know. And so that's never what Adam wanted. It's never what God wanted. It's never what Eve wanted. It's never what any female angel wanted. And it's never what any male angel wanted. It's only what a small minority in the Judeo-Christian fold wanted. And they took history and drove Western expansion, enslavement, branching out into the Americas, colonization, and even worked with Jesus's words about the Christ coming when all nations have been proselytized. And of course, they did not see it as a problem if in the process 6 million Jews were murdered. So not really wanting to testify to the Cain-Abel male drive. It's like a man being horny and saying to his wife, "Whatever you want, I'm going to fuck you. I don't care if you want it. I don't care if I have to hold your wrist down. I don't care if you feel it's like rape. I don't care if you're involved. I've got sexual desire. You are here, quote unquote, for me, and it's going to happen." And I'm not going so far as to say that Cain-Abel situation is one of rape, but we do know that as a result of history, many women have been raped. So you draw the line where you want, in what context. My point is that reconciliation is the ultimate goal of God. I want angels to reconcile with their own souls, and we're now up to the 5th of April, 2024.
Wow.
How many months and days have we moved forward, Laura, from the original date?
Oh,
A year.
Somebody with a cell phone can just Google number of days between 25 April and whatever the original date is.
It was 10 months.
3rd of March.
It was March 4th.
March 4th, 2025.
2025.
Yeah.
Well, March 4th is when everything would be quote unquote liberated, but March 3rd would be the final day. I'm giving the
Right.
final day. So how many,
It is around 10
roughly
months.
speaking, days is it?
Yeah, 11
No,
months.
it's more, 10 because it's from the beginning of the
Right.
latter month to the end of.
Don't need to worry about plus or minus 1 or 2
Yeah.
days. Our divine principle,
Right.
plus minus 2%. Let's just get a ballpark figure. Accuracy is not imperative, a general idea. How many
11
days or
months.
months?
11 months.
Takes one.
So I want to talk to you all as unificationists. Can you all put on your unificationist hat now? Think about why you joined. Think about the value of the movement. Think about mother. Think about father. Think about whatever you normally think of when you think unificationist community. Think about the worst version of the movement. Think about the best version. Think about the goal of the movement. Can you imagine if IW sisters were really pushing in 1974 we just want reconciliation. We know that Cain and Abel has been an issue in history, but let us not remember, women and men of the unification movement, that reconciliation is always an important goal of God. Can you imagine a different movement that
Yes,
was respected and supported?
yes.
Yeah, I'd have learned a lot more than the wheel.
Unificationism would be relevant to the real
Louise,
world.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
at a younger age.
Louise, do you
Yes,
have any comments? What would your movement as an early member, when the next tier of members began rolling in the early 70s, what would those people have experienced if Mrs. Salonen and Taco Hose and yourself and older women in the movement were able to push reconciliation and not be vetoed by Koreans or Japanese or father or anybody? What if you were given not carte blanche, but support in some level, to some degree, to push reconciliation?
that would be heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine
Even
it.
3% more would have been appreciated, right?
Easy if you try.
There would have been love.
I can tell you what would have happened. Some of the descending spirits that women in the movement would have had, they would have been all over it. Every other second day, Susan B. Anthony would be down, popping into somebody's life. Mary Magdalene would be in almost every unification woman's life. Mary would, you know, be telling women how to have orgasms. Mother Mary, Jesus's mother.
What's it called? It's like a bottle inside a metal garbage can.
You wouldn't have, quote, frigid unificationist women, because they would have their own relationship with God and femininity, and you would have women in the spirit world without being their wings cut, capable and able to support about all the things God has taught them about reconciliation. And so there would be a cornucopia of true love coming to unification women.
Amen.
Is that what you
Amen.
experienced, ladies, in the movement? A cornucopia of true love? Hey, it's a serious question. Did you experience a cornucopia of true love, Allison?
No. No.
But in a way, it's sort of what was promised as an end goal, where the average female unificationist joining thought we would get there much faster than, you know, having to wait generation after generation. So
It was Nora Spurgeon's dream, Heavenly Mother.
Oh my gosh, that woman knew. That woman
Nora
knows.
Spurgeon really, really dreamed that she could have done that for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
so she has, you know what, if she didn't exist, I'm not sure the movement would continue.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. I have to tell her that, Kathleen.
Whoa, that's deep.
Because it would be so fractured.
Yes.
More than it is.
The femininity of God would, you know, the value of woman would have been basically procreation.
Yeah.
And so,
She said to David Fastigi, almost crying when we were having lunch, and she said, what happened? What happened with our IOWC work and visiting? We knew members were waiting for us, just counting the days. Could they survive one more day until their IW would come? And then we just got taken away. It all got taken away. So she,
okay, I don't want to go there because
sorry.
that's
Yes,
bringing
sorry.
in too much of a resentful spiritual world. Sorry, Kathleen.
Sorry.
You're
Sorry.
connected to people. We're not
She
here
just-
to talk about people who've been hard done by, who could easily explain the truth of that matter. I, God, am fully aware of who's been hard done by.
So I'm sorry.
The goal is to understand a little bit why we're moving the date, because there are certain things that should happen, certain understandings which should at least be spoken about, if not acknowledged or felt. In your case, Kathleen, I insisted on you feeling it. There has to be something that occurs whereby I can then say to the angels who are out of touch with their own souls, it's safe. You can go find out who you really are now as an angel. You can drop your guard, and let your original soul speak to you. So the original soul of anyone is that which God envisaged they would be eternally. So incarnate, excarnate, I know excarnate is not a word, but I'm using it in a context here. So we are needing always, we meaning me, God through you, but as a created being, I envisage that for every moment or experience of life, there will always be a situation where a woman or a man will be asking, well, who am I? And what is the soul that God gave me? What is it? And there's a reason for that. Again, going back to you, Mark, if you discover more of your soul, you can then talk to Kim about it. And then she can access it. She can understand it. She can say, you know what? If you're feeling this and you're connected to, I see a twinkle in your eye. You can't see your eyes, but I, Kim, can see your eyes. You know, and when we are intimate in your eye, I can see that aspect of your soul. And you, as my spouse, confirming for me that you know that about your soul, I can then go to God and be myself. She can express gratitude. She can ask questions. She can say thanks in a simple way. She can explore more. She can ask questions about whether that twinkle from Mark's eye is given to her children because Mark is the father of her children. So she can suddenly think, oh, you have a son, Benjamin, right? Oh, this is how I'm going to care for Benjamin. This, even from the spirit world, I see that Mark and he have this in common, and maybe even Mark hadn't previously discovered that about his soul. But as the wife and mother in this family, I can actually, even from the spirit world, support our child, knowing that that spark, that element of soul has come from God to my husband, Mark, but also to my son, Benjamin. So the soul is when you open up everything and God floods you in with who you are. But if you do that at 4 o'clock on Friday, you'll get a response. If you do it at 4:05 on Friday, you'll get a different response. If you do it the following Tuesday, it'll be a totally different experience. So Jeannie, if you go to Long Island Sound, like you used to do when you were visiting your mother, now that she's ascended, can you get your face on camera, dear?
Yeah.
I see her.
If you go there,
That was you.
sorry, we've got a generational conflict. Hold on a minute.
Generational.
Hello. I want you to say hello to my friends. Come here. What did you get? Why don't you tell us about it?
It was like, is he there?
Oh,
This is Teddy. And when I was talking about your mother who's ascended, God decided to bring in the next generation. And he just got a little secret letter and he got a barrel of monkeys. And he's just arrived and I've been on the phone.
What a cutie.
These are all my friends. Hi, Kyoko. Hey, Bobo has to, he calls me Bobo. Bobo has to go back to my conference. Do you want to take your stuff and I'll see you soon? Take rubble. This is what we bought in New York, guys, for him.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want your little lid? Bobo
We
has
went
to-
to Target and we bought
I'll come
American.
see you when I can, darling. Bobo's gonna close the door so I can keep meeting. I love you.
Bye, Teddy.
Right, Teddy?
Bye, Teddy.
I swear Laura and Rob kidnapped me and took me down shop.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
that big
too.
smile is God's smile. It's not grandpa's smile. So when you go to Long Island and you express your emotion and feel your soul, okay? In theory, you could have, or you would have a very different experience, knowing now that your mom is no longer physically suffering and that she's obviously, from your perspective as a unification, is starting to break free, finding her way in the spirit world and receiving God's love and care. And it might be that instead of feeling yourself, you start to feel grief. Like, yeah, that's all great, but I miss her. I want her in my life, and I don't care that I'd rather she lived to be 120, 30, or 40, but it would be hell driving all the time, but I still want her. And Jerome would just have to put up with that. You know? But now that she's actually ascended and she's gone from the physical plane, there are so many options for you to get in touch with your soul in a very, very different way. You might go back to the 23-year-old Jeannie, you know, and
Yeah.
feel free. And if you come in with the 23-year-old Jeannie, watch out, because Jerome will notice. He might be all over you. How old were you when you met Jerome?
26.
Okay, so he's whoa, pick up 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go on too much into my sharing about soul on angels, let's just sort of recap a little here. The point of this call is not to define what soul is, because you can use one of the standard dictionaries to get a sense of it. You can discuss whether those standard dictionary definitions are male-centric or balanced for women and men. The point here is that after the creation, the intent of God was to work in the lives of the first family, and for people to begin to experience things like parenthood, being a grandparent, being a great-grandparent, having first cousins, having second cousins. What did I just say, David?
The experience of being a family, having parents and grandparents and first cousins, second cousins, having lineage
What was the time element? I said after the creation.
after the creation. Yeah.
And so knowing that angels predate these humans, I had to have discourse with the angels about what would be. Okay, and I had to say, well, some of the things you need as a created being, as an angel, they're not going to come to fruition until there's a certain level of development in humanity. Right? So it's like you, David, saying to your daughter, if you go pursue that second or third degree or fifth degree, or, you know, start studying abroad in Ghana, you know, you may not come to appreciate the Ghanaian people until you've been there a while. You get to know the in and outs of the Ghanaian nation. You know, your mom went and your father's Yemeni background, my background, you may not fully appreciate that till you've been there a while. Okay. Jerome?
Yeah,
You were in Ukraine. Let's put aside all this conflict from the day, but when you were there, did it take a while for you to come to appreciate the Ukrainian people, or did you just fall in love with them as soon as your eyes locked with them?
I think they're very artistic people.
Was it quick, or did it take a while?
Took a
Was
while.
it quick for you to love with them, to connect with them, or did it take a while?
It took a while.
And if you had to give people time, was it a couple of days, a couple of years, a couple of decades?
Couple of days.
Okay. So people connect with us in different levels. So you can think that when people were created, oh, some of the angels would be able to connect with these created or birthed people easily, and some not. So who found it easy to connect with people right away? I'll tell you. We're going to start with the male known archangel. Michael, absolutely gung-ho.
Mhm.
Easy to connect with Eve, easy to connect with Adam, could appreciate Cain's better points, could appreciate Abel's better points, could appreciate the daughters of Eve and Adam. In fact, he's never lost touch with that. Michael has never lost touch with connecting with anybody. And therefore, throughout history, most of the content you get about Archangel Michael whether from a woman or man, it's usually in a positive light. What was difficult is that through all these historical relationships between Michael and living human beings, he doesn't really talk about himself that much.
Hey,
No.
And so people don't really know how he's doing. And that's a sign that either he doesn't want to, or it's not safe, as the Judeo-Christian paradigm tends to believe, or maybe it could also be a sign that he is out of touch with himself and that he's disconnected with his ambitions. And so I'm going to cut to the chase. Michael really was looking forward to the 6th generation of humanity and being able to address his own personal desires, somewhat as an adolescent angel, but also as a guy or a man, to talk to God at length about his sensuality, his sexuality, and his desire for womanly companionship and love. And he is not an ignorant or stupid person. And so he understood that he should be finding his other half in a female angel, and that would mean a lot to him. But he didn't expect to have to wait through all of human history for it. He expected by the 7th generation to have love on offer and for the dialogue between God and him to continue with regard to his being in a monogamous heterosexual relationship. And hopefully to consort with God to discuss bearing children with such a woman angel or woman. And by woman, I don't mean human women. Because remember, we have a problem with the English language where sometimes I have to use the word person to refer to angels, and sometimes man to refer to angels, and sometimes woman to refer to angels. Now, this is quite critical. So if you're feeling a little sleepy, pinch yourself so that you can make sure you're going through this transition.
Glenn, are you pinching yourself?
No, I'm stretching myself.
So Glenn, basically your ancestors want to hear more than you, so they're going to congest you. So you do have the option to ask them to receive it through you via teletext or ticker tape or fax, rather than straight through your physical person so that you can hear it. But that's between you and your ancestors, how inclusive you want to be to them.
Okay.
So Michael should not have to wait thousands of years to share his open, real feelings with anybody. So he constantly pushed his feelings aside for the sake of the recovery of humanity. The explanation was always, but God, you're suffering more than me. You love humanity more than me. How can I possibly put myself first? How can I think of myself? And even if I do, I don't know if I can bear the pain with regard to my personal sacrifice. Now, did you get that? Very important. Michael was not confident, he was unsure that he could bear the pain of his own personal sacrifice. So what did he sacrifice? Marriage. What did he sacrifice? Intercourse. What did he sacrifice? Relationship. What did he sacrifice? Incredible, numerous communication with God about happy, constructive relationships, human and angelic. Instead, he became a silent partner in the recovery or restoration. He became the antagonist to humanity, trying to prevent Cain and Abel from harming each other. Dr. Wilson, definition of antagonist?
Opponent.
So basically, we're understanding that Michael knew that the Cain-Abel relationship was not really all that good, but he had to work with what he had in humanity. Ladies, Fiona, what does that mean to you? Do you think it's a wonderful thing to know that there was at least one male angel who actually didn't automatically buy into everything being resolved by two male guys with penises trying to sort out everything for everybody all the time?
I think so. I think so. That's complicated. I lost
I will speak for myself. I, God, am very happy to have had him as an ally. But the problem I had in the feminine, of course, was that I'm speaking my feminine experience to my male created archangel. And we had to agree that I would acknowledge it was painful and that we both had to, what's the word in English? Trunjo, go forward, go trudge through difficulty, okay?
Yes.
And yes, we did it, but now you cannot say that trudging through all human history is going to automatically heal the heart or the soul of a male archangel. And you cannot say that having a loving wife or having a child or having a family is going to solve everything they went through. You understand?
Yes.
And if there were female angels created at the same time, same applies, but in a different way based on their creation, based on how women and men are able to relate in different ways and unique ways to God. So when we finish all this stuff, where at the last conference in New York State, we basically hear that every female archangel of the 6 is knocked up. And all of them are expecting families.
Population explosion.
Sorry, do I need to hear something?
Population explosion
No,
impending.
it's just Rob and Laura banter, sorry.
Yeah, we're laughing with each other.
We don't want to simply assume that because they are blessed with the creation of the 4 position in their life, that would mean that their souls are restored. And easy understanding. So think of the first dysfunctional blessed family you can think of, where everybody's a mess, but they're still together.
The first place winner,
Okay.
or
What do you think of?
Just
Sure.
everybody think, put your hand up, and it might be your own family. We're not going to ask personal questions, but it might be somebody else's. Put your hand up, your right hand, please. If you can think of one dysfunctional blessed family that is still together, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so that just proves that you can start your 4 position foundation, but people are not necessarily in touch with themselves. They're not necessarily growing, they're not necessarily healed, and their soul is not necessarily recovered. The difference here, the average first generation unificationist, Adruma, doesn't get disconnected from themselves. They do not separate from the soul. For yourself as an African-American unificationist, you're put in a white environment and you're often disconnected from yourself. You're not really, but you have to have 2 faces. Well, this is how I relate to the white guys, but this is how I relate to my fellow Africans or my fellow African-Americans, or this is how I relate to my own dysfunctional biological family. This is how I relate to the healing I want with my mother. But in the unification movement, my soul, I'm not that really disconnected. I can still, in my soul, find God and find out the human being God created me to be. God, when I was conceived with that semen and that egg, that sperm, knew what God was creating when I arrived, and knew who God wanted me to be, and knew how I fit in eternally to absolutely everything. And that's the man that Fiona married. That's the man that Fiona wants to see. The guy who's absolutely in touch with his self That's the man that she wants to hear about, not all the other stuff about what you think and where you go and what you believe. They're interesting, but if she never sees the glint in your eyes, like Kim looking in Mark's, and says, well, that I see you now, and I see your soul. That's what she wants to rejoice in. Now, Fiona, you have to forgive me for speaking on your behalf, but I need your husband to glimpse a little bit about what you might be looking for. Here I'm saying might, and we don't need to confirm. You guys can talk about it later or not. But my point is, whether this is accurate for Fiona and Adruma, the truth of the matter is there are dysfunctional situations. For the average white unification male in the unification movement, they're not put at odds with their soul very often. We have exceptions like you, Dr. Wilson, representing the Jewish population often, and that doesn't always sink in with the Christian population. And we have Muslims in the unification movement, and we have Catholic backgrounds and Protestant. We have atheists, and we have free thinkers, and we have nudists, and we have conservative people with their collar up to their chin, you know, more modest than anybody ever would want. But the average reality collectively is that we don't have people out of touch with their soul. We do have people in leadership who want to serve leadership who walk away from their soul. I will definitely share that sometimes Michael Jenkins does that. I'm sure others will think, oh yeah, maybe, or whatever, but we are talking about people who often will not let people know what their soul is about because whatever reason. Okay, so we don't have that situation as a parallel in the angels. So we don't have angels who deliberately avoid their soul, who deliberately walk away from self in order to get a job done or to support a cause. The angels are not that dysfunctional. And why? Because before Kathleen and David, to a smaller degree, before those angels saw the creation of humanity, they spent time with God, and they therefore had quality time with God and with their soul. It's the problem here is the creation period of Eve and Adam up to 6 generations. What was supposed to happen? What didn't happen for angels, and how did they sacrifice, suffer, or become out of touch with their soul? Now we're in a situation where I really want you all to try to stay connected to this, because it's gonna sort of speak to the whole point of why we're meeting once again. We met, we had a conference in October of last year, and angels grew, healing happened, marriages occurred, the Jeffersons. We had situations where there was growth and development, understanding, and then finally, you know, bang, bang, at the end of this conference, suddenly semen and egg all start to be connecting, and everybody is in a situation where they can at least experience the first pregnancy in their archangelic marriages among the 6 that I have tried to identify. We then take Chris back, who goes through basically a living hell in the physical world ever since then, where everything is disconnected, discombobulated, to the point where he's convinced that somebody else somewhere will do it, because now that was done and somebody else will pick up the mantra. Until suddenly, less than 24 hours before he speaks to Laura and Rabba, I ratchet up again, and to the point where it is way beyond what he understands as himself, only enough to cognize information. What was I doing? I was setting a stage. So if that has hurt anybody, I apologize. Because if you set up a stage for a theater production, but you run over the toes of the light man or the light woman, or you forget the wand of the orchestra pit, the favorite wand, or you forget that there's a rip in the second row and you shouldn't seat some particular people there in that seat. You don't always have everybody enjoying the production or the stage. But what is needed is some form of commonality. What I'm not being able to establish fully is the feminine aspect here, but I will make a stab at it at some point. First, let's just put on our basic Judeo-Christian understanding of DP. They're angels. We understand that there's not a lot said, and that our fundamental goal is restoration history, providence, and recovering humanity, and having the blessing, and recovering true love, and 3-day ceremonies, and setting up families, and hopefully not having dysfunction, but still being determined like true father and just going on no matter what. But the reality is, previous to the year 1920 or 1919, you know, not much was said about the angels from the point of view of when they would populate the spirit world with their own progeny. In fact, the idea in the unification movement was that probably angels wouldn't populate the spirit world with their own progeny, because although they had penises and vaginas, they seemed to be almost exclusively created by God. So maybe those penises and vaginas were there for sex and sexual intimacy with the angels, but not necessarily for procreation, just as human beings don't expect to arrive in the spirit world and to be able to procreate, nor would many people want to procreate in the spirit world. They'd say, well, great, I've got a child here, but my son or daughter has never experienced the physical world. How can I relate to that? I don't want that. It's something I thought about as the creator, and I ruled against it. What I didn't rule against is angelic procreation. The fact that Cynthia procreated before she became an angel obviously is a factual thing to consider if you believe all the channeling, or consider it, because if she could procreate before she became an archangel, it means that lower level, quote, or other angels can procreate. So we left off with procreation, but then after a certain point in time, when the angels settled down, became comfortable with the fact that they're becoming expectant fathers or expectant mothers, when they began to reevaluate the current state of the world, the Ukraine war and conflict, the Russian situation, the arms situation, the Korean situation, when they got to readdress all of that and address their own hopes and dreams and expectations as adult angels about having a family, then we had to begin to go back and say, but this stuff, remember, Heavenly Parent using the word, I'll use the word single quote, G-U-Y-S, single quote. You can determine whether that's too gender biased and you want guys and gals, but from the point of view of addressing a crowd, okay, guys, you've got all your expectant families, but you were supposed to have these by the time there was the 7th generation of humanity. And everything was supposed to be in tremendous flux and movement where everybody's constantly learning, angels, angelic children, after, you know, the 7th generation. And now you're in that flux where you're learning because you have angelic children and families, but you've carried 6,000 biblical, spiritual, you know, representative years of history, all of history, millions of years of time on earth. And you're disconnected from your soul. You're disconnected. You're not, you haven't resolved the pain in your life. You haven't told, for example, Jeannie, you don't have in your diary the time when Raphael came and said to you, this is what I've been through. Let me cry on your shoulder. You know, Barbara has that experience with Lucifer. Andrew witnessed it to a certain point, but we need people like Michael, Gabriel, to identify who they are, what they've been through. And in Michael's case, Kathleen, he's
Yes.
going to need you to hold his hand, not him hold your hand, while he goes and meets his pain.
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't get to say that without looking David in the eye, because David might be jealous. Don't look him in the eye.
That's not the question. You have to look in David's eyes and say that.
You just need to make eye contact and include your husband, because you don't get to make this decision about holding an archangel's hand, helping him through pain without talking to your significant other. Makes
Okay.
sense? Makes
Yeah,
sense?
but it's never been like that with Michael. That's the whole thing, but that's okay. I can reassure David. There you go.
We're not talking about sex.
I
I'm
know.
not, we are talking about the fact that nobody knows what signing up to helping an angel meet their own pain means. And so you cannot put your hand on your heart and say to your husband, David, I'll be okay, because you don't know that. You do not know what taking responsibility for his pain would mean. And David could say to you, well, why you? I'm a guy. I have my foreskin, the only one with I'm better qualified, you know, to help him. I'm much better qualified to help him deal with his pain, you know? And it is the relationship you have longstanding. It's only because it's not really to do with your gender. It's because you have a longstanding relationship with Michael that he put his hand on you to comfort you. But now I'm just saying you might need to do the same from time to time. If you have a longstanding relationship with someone, whatever their gender, you sometimes might need to put your hand on their hand to comfort them. Right?
That's absolutely.
I mean, Jeannie, if Jacinta was involved and she put her hand on Jerome's hand to comfort him, you're going to object?
No, I'm not.
You don't think she's the sort of woman who wants to jump Jerome's bones?
No.
But I just need to point this out because there's 33% of the unificationist spirit world who still can't cope with a man and a woman touching hands if they're not married.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
But well, giving an homage to the reality of the unification environment, we still don't need to make that our focus. It is an important reality because I have empathy and sympathy as the creator, and I don't want people suffering like that. I don't want them to feel that touching somebody from the opposite gender is automatically a ticket to entrapment. And remember that, Kyoko, you there?
Yes.
Remember how much your Japanese sisters and brothers suffer on this point, right?
Yes.
It's just such a awful thing where to touch somebody of the opposite gender, it means you might be bringing in the spirit world that would come on to them sensuously, sexually. But now we have to say, well, we might have shortcomings in as brothers taking care of sisters or sisters taking care of brothers, but we still might need to take care of an archangel of the opposite gender to myself. So, Mark, you might need to comfort Afina. And you know why? Because she's so frustrated with the Korean situation. She's like, I have tried, I am supposed to help, my main mission is helping, and whatever I do, and
They keep going back to the
Andrew,
future.
You and Lova might have to comfort Archangel Raphael. Is like, why can't the Jewish population in Israel be more loving? Why can't they heal? Why do they have to go the way they go? Why is it, putting the will of God so far down the line? I mean, is that angel wrong in referring to things happening in the modern state of Israel, Andrew, Louise, as the will there of the collective population that is not Arab. And let's leave out, let's say, not Arab minus the Arab citizens of the nation state of Israel. But those, or even the Arab residents of the nation, or permanent residents of the nation state of Israel, those other Arabs, excluding them, the will, I'm not including the will of those Arabs who are not residents or citizens of Israel, but the will of everyone collectively, it doesn't seem to be working for healing, does it?
Not at all.
It's getting there.
And so Raphael, the angel of healing, well, Louise, Andrew, you might need to comfort that angel.
Yes.
Have you ever thought about that, Andrew? As you being the comforter of Archangel Raphael?
No,
Is it logical?
yes,
And from the point of self, and you're thinking not about the Jewish people, but just thinking about the Archangel, just as a person, how does that make you feel, knowing that you might have a role to comfort him?
it's empowering. It's another way I can do something positive for the situation of Israel.
It's empowering because Father relied you on always playing the role of being second fiddle to him, and you're only coming now in your life to agreeing with yourself that it'll be okay for me to play first fiddle to myself. Is that correct?
That's true too. Yeah,
I want you to look at everybody in the Delaware group and speak in your own words, whether it's true. They deserve to know if it's true that you have come to a point in your life where you're trying to put yourself first, at least sometimes.
yes, I am trying to put myself first, at least sometimes,
Okay.
within limits.
4 or 5 years ago, were you doing it or doing it as much?
No, not at all.
So it was more important to be secure or to make an offering or success by serving, right?
That's correct.
Okay, but the truth of the matter is, because you are taking care of yourself, you become a candidate to also take care of Archangel Raphael. In Hawaii, when we did the demarcation thing, if I asked you to do that, that would have been utterly ridiculous. It would have been insensitive. It would have not represented what you wanted. It wouldn't have acknowledged your desire to make an offering. It would have presumed that you should be a certain way. We would have to have taken away from the line of demarcation and focused on you and helping you in your own choices to be caring of yourself. You understand? But now
Yes.
you can say to all those archangels with genuine reality, oh, well, Andrew, I actually hope all of you do get in touch with yourself. I hope you find whatever is in your soul. And I do hope that you avail yourself of Kathleen's care, Michael, and face your pain. And I do hope that given everything you've done for us, we can love you and do something for you. And I do hope that you give David strength to support his wife in that. And I do want to be the brother to support David in how that is going. I want, because I now can take care of myself to do that. Now, ladies.
Because I can face my pain more in looking after myself. I have more empathy for archangels like Raphael, who need also to move out of the servant role and start facing their pain, because I'm starting to be able to do that.
But listen, there's another truth here at play about yourself and this reality that we're all discussing. Because you can face yourself, you're setting an example. There is an example of someone who previously didn't take care of themselves much, or won't testify that they thought they did, or where it might be hard pressed to find other people testifying that they disagree. No, Andrew has always been taking care of himself from the day he joined in California to now. He's absolutely been taking, but because of the way that people think, and they'd be hard pressed to go against that, there's an example. And that is an example that somebody like Archangel Michael could follow. Now, I would like to address yourself, Allison. Allison, stretch your arms for a moment. Let's have you take care of Archangel Gabriel.
Okay.
Why you?
Because
You were
I understand.
abandoned by your husband, David. He did not agree to find value in what you thought. He did not agree to put his children first. So far, before I go any further, anything I said untrue? Look at Jeannie and tell her whether what was channeled was true or false.
That was all true.
So that means that you understand the heart of Gabriel, because he also feels abandoned, just like you.
Mm.
He took care of Mary, but who took care of him? He announced the conception of Christ, but who took care of him when he saw Jesus on the cross? Where is the information in the Bible about what Archangel Gabriel was doing when Jesus was suffering physically, the torture, the pain, and experiencing the heartache of God on the cross? Where was he? I'll tell you where he was. He was holding God's hand. He was holding Mother God's hand, saying, I'm so sorry, Mother God, you have to see your son suffer. I'm so sorry, Mother God, you cannot take care of him. I'm so sorry, Mother God, you can't get your son off the cross. Hey, Jeannie, you with me?
Yes, sir.
You want to experience this deeper?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so just imagine it's your only son, Jonathan, on that cross. And Archangel Gabriel cannot comfort Mother God while I see your and Jerome's only son on a cross and going through tremendous pain and suffering. Now, you can help Gabriel because you saw Jonathan suffer through his drug abuse, and you saw the pain that it put him through physically, and you saw the mental anguish. So you can easily comfort Mother God there, and you certainly can comfort Archangel Gabriel with regard to whatever pain he went through with regard to Jesus' crucifixion. However, Jerome has not abandoned you, and you have not abandoned Jerome. And therefore, you're not going to be able to the same level to comfort Gabriel as Allison could with regard to Gabriel's feeling abandoned. So we now see that these angels have experiences, and sometimes you as an individual are in a position to comfort them in some way, but not completely. And sometimes they are there more than in a specific element of their identity, but across the board or in many ways. In the case of Lucifer, emotionally, Barbara can comfort him, but Chris can comfort him intellectually. And Will, the two gentlemen that helped him get ready for the blessing, put your hand up. You guys can help him with as well. You can comfort him. So when you're encouraging Lucifer and saying, well, you've been a head honcho goal and you're going to try to help walk everybody through recovering their soul and God feeling comfortable in themselves and getting us to this point where God can fully relax. We just want to express our gratitude that you bucked the system and came out of sync with time to get this going. So let's now talk about time, Allison, Andrew, Louise, and Adruma. Why? Why time? Why different? Because when in the spirit world it became obvious that Lucifer's family would increase, when it became obvious that I wanted him to experience true love, and I wasn't afraid of Lucifer having a second son. Because remember, in the message that only channeled this week, Lucifer says, I just really thought I'd only have 3 children. And it was a surprise that so quickly after the birth of our second daughter, our 3rd child, our intercourse resulted in another conception. a child, and it was very clear to me that God wanted this child. Notice that in the channeling, very carefully, there is no reference to the fact that this child would be a boy. That's announced here. So therefore, there is no prejudicial information about what the role of a second son is or isn't in that recording. And therefore, as a member of the Delaware group, Kyoko, Antonio included, you all get to hear first point. Now, what do you think Antonio is doing in the spirit world? I will tell you, he's holding Lucifer's left hand. He's got his other hand on Lucifer's knee, and he is saying, we will not let them mess this child out with any of their preconceived notions about the second child. Does that sound like something Antonio would do?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Thank you, Antonio.
thank you.
You're welcome.
That sounds like you, Ed.
He's got a good knee. Very sturdy. There's Antonio's humor coming through. Eyes freezing are the fact that I need to change Chris's demeanor. So just bear with the blank frame here. Inhale, stretch your arms, relax a minute. Okay, so I want to try to work in a bathroom break at 2 minutes past the hour. Look at your clocks if you're needing to go. If you don't think you can make it to 2 minutes past the hour, or you think that the toilets are going to be clogged, you don't need from this point to ask my permission to leave for a toilet break if you're in New York. If you're at your own home, please try to hold on. With the exception of Louise and Glenn, one of you could represent the couple. So if somebody wants to go to a toilet break from now, you can. Otherwise, collectively, we will see at 2 minutes past. I have to sort of inhale and now put an air of femininity on Chris's shoulders. So ladies, Chris's shirt is not the color you see. It's very light pink. There's white fluff around the collar. He's got a gold brooch. His breasts are developing. His lips are a soft lip. His masculine character is changing. His eyebrows are not those strong masculine ones. They're thinned out. And his voice, his tone is different, and the way he breathes in and out is different. Now, you may not be able to see it, and I'm not going to do that completely to him, but that's the sort of femininity I want to present for this next part. We as women want angels to be successful. We want them to be happy, and we want them to be in touch with their soul. Is that a truth?
Yes.
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 And we're sorry, whatever you might mean by sorry, that any angel, whatever their gender, might have had to wait to be fully in touch with their soul during all this course of history. Is that true or false, lady?
That's
true.
Laura Brooks, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Is that true or false?
That is true.
Why is it true?
It
For you,
rings
why is it true as a woman or representing women? If the other sisters don't object, why do women agree with that?
It rings true with us.
So therefore, when women talk in the Delaware group, they can just converse and say, well, what do you think our role here is? How do we as ladies support this? What do we think God is trying to do with the angels? And are some of the female angels in the same? So I'll tell you, there is at least one female angel, Laura, who's in the same boat as these guy angels, and that is Archangel Cynthia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she's
Yes.
had to put certain painful things aside, okay, as a result of how she's experienced life and been treated, and also been taught as to how she should treat herself. And when the femininity of God actually speaks to her in truth, most of those things that she has been taught and she has experienced will not ring true. They will be rejected by her, and they will be rejected by Mother God. And when she comes to find her true self, then she and I will begin to have discourse. And she is on target to achieve this calendar days, 2 days from now.
Way to go, Cynthia.
Yes,
Because she doesn't accept bullshit, this woman.
No,
So,
No, it's not.
she's on target, okay? Her only reservation is her role as sister
See it both ways.
to these male archangels. She still has to figure that out because they haven't figured out their own self. But she still, if she wants to consider herself, quote unquote, to be a younger sister, she doesn't have to wait for the older brothers, the older angels, to resolve their issues before she resolves her own. That's why she's on target 2 days earlier. It's not because of her gender. It's because being roughly the new kid on the block, she doesn't have to solve the older generation's issues. And you could argue that they're all first generation, so it's not an older generation, but the angels that predate the existence of Eve and Adam, it takes well. I will tell you that Cynthia does not predate the existence of Eve and Adam.
Oh, no.
She is
Oh, no.
created after Eve and Adam.
Yes. That's what I
Okay.
thought.
So that's the only thing I've said so far about angels. Was Cynthia birthed? She was not birthed.
Because she was created.
She was created approximately age 14, maybe 13 when she was created. So she's already created in a state of
Puberty.
sexual development or puberty. If you understand that I created her in a form of puberty, you will understand why she might have become sexually active and why she might have become a teenage mother. However,
He created her for me.
I needed a
No.
woman of her caliber, particularly because I foresaw a blessing to her to Alberto.
Albert.
Roberto.
That's it.
You'll have to understand that with Chris, when I channel it to him, it's coming through as either Umberto or Alberto many times. And the fact that it is Roberto is not a point of accuracy. It's a point of me disconnecting things deliberately because I don't want him to presuppose who Roberto is or isn't. That is not the focus here. But the point is that he, her husband, certainly was going to need a other half. And I did not believe that her going through a period of childhood or infancy was relevant. Archangel Gabriel was approximately age 18 at creation. Lucifer is anywhere from 21 to 35 at creation. That's a big gap, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So which angel was 18?
Gabriel.
How old was Michael?
You didn't say.
Michael was anywhere from 3 years old to 12,800,000 years.
You just, right?
Remember that Michael is very much in touch with the power of God. You don't get in touch with the power of God unless you've been around for millions of years.
Like-
Or you have the ability to relate to being around for millions of years.
Oh, my God.
So he's
Seriously,
a time traveler.
does any of you want to try to argue with Michael about the best way to maintain Niagara Falls for the next 60 million years? He could hold a really deep conversation about how to take care of Niagara Falls. You know.
Block by block.
Okay,
Wow.
so that is capacity, but what about maturity? to have the capacity to understand things that happened millions of years in creation, and to have that ability to only understand things from being a teenager, it doesn't speak about maturity. So let us use the word self-righteous or self-righteousness. This is what led to Lucifer's downfall. That with all that knowledge, he self-righteously assessed that he knew what he was doing. He did not have the relationship skills to wait, to ask a question and let God speak through another person, and not assume that they would regurgitate what he thought should come out of their mouths. He didn't want to hear Adam's objections because he understood that I thought he already knew what Adam should be saying. This is not because he was arrogant or because he was self-centered or he was trying to make himself the most high. It's because of how he chose to use his level of maturity. Similarly, Adam, at the time of the fall, had not a lot of life experience and did not know how to stop Lucifer in his tracks. He could have said, had Adam been more mature, listen, buddy, I know you know a thing or two. However, I have value, God is speaking, and I am experiencing, I'm just going to check, but I'm experiencing God talking through me. And I have got to tell you what I feel about you and Lucifer. Now listen, don't run away. What you and Eve did, and we both know what you did, right? Because I saw how much you ejaculated and I saw the spillage. You know, that's a pretty big penis you got. And it's, you know, not one of these smaller size things, you know, and I'm sure that it was pleasurable for both of you, but you need to hear my feelings, because if I don't share them, I'm going to crack, and I need to rely on you. You have to be my best buddy. Now, here's where women come into issue with this divine principle, but okay, so, oh, there we go again. Adam and the archangel working out their relationship. Here's the 3-day ceremony all over again. What do we women do? Just lie here and change position? You know, how do we ladies, you know, who do we get to lean on? You know, where's our feminine counterpart? Okay, so that's why I very carefully avoid talking about whether explicitly an angel is created before or after. We now know that both male and female angels can be birthed after the creation of Eve and Adam, because some of them are birthed after your own creation. We now know that Cynthia was created after, and we can assume that if God is doing this, there may be cause for God to create a male archangel afterwards. And that part in the message that I channeled through Chris about procreation and angels, what I'm trying to say is when you reach a certain point in the design, as a creator, you really shouldn't just be creating angels like that because you're creator. You should let that which you created function suitably and happily to a degree. And people and angels should solicit God for change. And if you want to solicit me for creating an angel, you know that only God can do it, so you can ask. It doesn't necessarily mean I comply, but I am required to listen to the argument and whether there's a good reason and whether it actually would benefit the creation to create another angel. But I will also ask people to rely on my seniority and say, I would rather you do it through procreation. If you want to work with me in your lineage to have a specific type of angel, if you want to wait 2,000 years for Mrs. Chang and try and marry her up to Jesus, you can do that. Okay, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know how happy they'll be. I don't know what capacity they'll have to love each other. I don't know if they're going to break the marriage or decide to keep it, or, you know, but what I can tell you is that I'm not ready, despite Father's wishes, to give them a lineage if I don't know they're really committed to each other. So the idea of donating Unjanim's 2 sons to Jesus's lineage, the sons conceived by her equestrian spouse, I'm not really outwardly going to support that. And I'm not necessarily going to support the creation to support that. Moreover, I'm obligated, based on divine principle, to make sure first and foremost, Unjanim and her equestrian husband are supporting that. And also I have to be sure that the offspring, the two boys, they would be happy with that. And I can tell you that none of those four people have ever come and said, yep, we want to jump ship and change families. So Father may have had that idea and proffered it or tried to work for the spirit world and God to make it happen, but it didn't happen. And I don't see until Jesus and Mrs. Chang really spiritually meet successfully and come to terms that we would ever talk about a meaningful lineage. I did my best through Chris and the original panelists and Yejanim and Jesus in the spirit world and Mrs. Chang, and they were still standoffish. Okay. There's fluctuation back and forth. There's intercourse in the port of Jesus with Mary Magdalene. There's relationships. It's all over the place. Love is a big mess, and expectation is a big mess. I'm not going to make it worse of a mess by authorizing a lineage to be donated there, despite the 2,000. The problem is not the 2,000-year gap in giving a lineage to a couple that are born not 6 months apart or 6 years or 2,000 years apart. The problem is in the inability to note a substantial commitment that works for everyone, that we go ahead and bless that lineage. Any comments on what I said? And please do not go Christian or Jewish on me. Let's stick with divine principle. Ellison, you're a divine principle lecturer, and you're a woman here. Kathleen, the same. Any other woman who wants, Jeannie, the same. Any other woman wants to claim to be a divine principle lecturer? Anybody who's female and a divine claims that title. What do you think about what I just said about Mrs. Chang and Jesus? And yes, we are past 3 minutes past the toilet break. So go if you want. If you're not really that interested with Jesus and Mrs. Chang, go have a wee. Nobody wants to comment?
I would like to comment. I would like to comment that Jesus, I felt, was very courageous in wanting to speak to us about his true heart, about how he felt about Mary, and he's waited a long time to do that, and he had trust in us that we could understand where he's coming from, and then Mary spoke to us as well. So I guess that we have to think about Mrs. Chang and her heart and the life that she's led here on earth, but I think that
I'm just going to interrupt you because we're short on time, Kathleen.
Yeah.
The problem is that God is dialoguing about angels resolving soul. And as soon as that happens, you can assume that the human population of the spirit world, if they've got issues, and somebody like Jesus or Adam or Eve, if they're not fully in touch with their soul, they'll be coming to God saying, well, now the angels have been supported to develop a way and means to get in touch with their original soul. Well, Eve, the mother of humanity, I want to do it. And, you know, Adam, I want to do it. And Cain, Abel, the sisters of their sisters, you know, we can express that, well, somebody like Jesus will want to do it. What if Mrs. Chang isn't in a position in the physical world to do it? And then Jesus is saying, how can I possibly be in touch with my soul if it's still unclear my marital dispensation? And, you know, and I don't see my wife as knowing herself completely. He's referring in this instance to Mrs. Chang as his wife. So what is going on? Does he have a wife and also a lover? It's a very historical reality to be married and have a mistress. And then, you know, a true love and a Romeo and Juliet scenario where, you know, who loves whom and who will do what and how far do you go and how much do you suffer for love? My point here is that this was only targeted as a clarification that angels who have been held up with knowing their original souls, fully knowing their souls as a result of the whole male-female angel dynamic not being resolved within the first 6 generations of humanity. This was only a situation where I was saying, I, God, can relax And I'll fully be able to relax when all the angels are in touch with their soul. Why can I fully relax, but yet Jesus doesn't? Because the creation is designed for that. The creation is designed for people to work out their own issues, for them to co-create and own their own experience. Jesus and Mrs. Chang are not being held up as a result of the human fall, as the angels were, and they're not being held up as a result of the spiritual fall. They're not being held up because angels didn't connect. If anything, Mrs. Chang is just like any other woman. Not now, darling. Thank you. Can you hear my grandson?
Yes.
Okay, soon I'll work to wrap it up, darling. They've sent my grandson to tell me the 2-hour limit is up. Okay, so trying to go back to channeling. The distinction that I was trying to specify. The design of creation is that if a being is not being held back as a result of something outside of their own control, then God doesn't have to intervene. So, Louise, for example, if you get a letter from your previous daughter-in-law and you read into it and you think that it is rude, and then a terrible relationship develops between you and her, that's not the result of the fall. It's not a result of anything else. It's miscommunication and misunderstanding, and you get to work it out and identify it and resolve it and reconcile it and get the entire creation working with you to support it. What we're trying to do here, what I am trying to do as creator, is set up the circumstances where we shorten the time period so that angels can be not negatively impacted as a result of the fact that their intimate realities and their relationships with the human population and with each other was negatively impacted by the fact that they had to wait way beyond 6 generations of humanity for blessing and intercourse and family. And now they're stuck with all the emotional baggage. And part of that baggage is them being afraid to face their own souls, to be afraid to find out what they've been through and not being confident that there will be anybody there for them to help them face those issues, and not being confident that anybody understands or gives a hoot, or even if they do, they have no skills, abilities, strength, or asset or tools to use to help them recover their souls. That's what we're trying to do. The problem is that I know as soon as the angels get it, the human population will bend on the knee and beg God for recovering their own soul, which I, as a parent, of course, want to do. But when you deal with somebody who's in such a predicament, where as a result of history, one is dead, 2,000 years, and the other is still living, and there's a relationship, and people are not in touch with their own souls and what they need and want, and the spirit world doesn't necessarily support them to be in touch with their own soul. That is not within the scope of what I want to do. That, when I keep calling the date out as closer and closer, that's not. That is growing up and being able to face reality as a mature person, saying, look, I'm tired of this. I want to make a decision one way or the other, God. Can we do this? I don't want to keep being strung along or being in the middle of something. Do we understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes.
With regard to Jesus and Mrs. Chang?
Yes.
Yes.
On the one hand, Jesus airs his laundry. On the other hand, he never fully denounces the marriage. On the other hand, he's worried whether he denounces the marriage, how it would impact the unification movement and how it would impact someone because he's a caring, loving person. You know, Mrs. Chang is his sister. What if he actually does become his wife? You know, it impacts Mary, you know, and they then in one energy and environment can go Mary Magdalene, Jesus, and live happily ever after. But as soon as they get out of that environment, it's no longer happily ever after. So they want to be in a situation that wherever they go, like Harry and Meghan, they can be happy. Okay? And they're not going to be able to please everybody, but they'd like to have some basic agreeable tenets that work for them and others, okay? And we know that there's a difference between asking for help and browbeating people for help. And so I'm not saying that there isn't a place for browbeating. So let's come now to a conclusion. What is the basic issue that angels haven't received? They haven't had freedom, okay? They have not been free to say to themselves or to God what they think about their soul, because they've had to put humanity first and they've had to put God first, okay? And I gave the story of Archangel Gabriel comforting Mother God when she saw her spouse, husband, lover, Jesus, all the things I saw in him wilting and bending to the destruction of crucifixion. They haven't been free. When we get past the date, what's the current date? What was the last date given?
January 14th,
The last date that
2023.
was May,
Oh, it
April.
was
April 24.
25th, April 25th.
Yeah,
24.
April 25th.
April 25th, what year?
2024.
24.
How long is that? Is that 1 year and how many months? Earth time.
In about
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, 15 months.
15 months.
What would happen if we were able to bring it way forward and say, look, we're gonna just put time in sync again and come the 12th of February, 2023, we will be able to make sure that they're free.
Oh,
Would that be okay?
That would be okay.
yeah.
That would be okay.
So I'm going to give you a list of what needs to happen in order for that to occur on that date, i.e. February of this year. 1, Michael must face his pain. 2, Gabriel must apologize to God for trying to solve everything. Nobody can solve everything. 3, Raphael must understand more about female healing. 4, humanity must send a word of good wishes to the angels.
What?
Would you like to do that representing humanity? Send a word
Yeah.
of good wishes to the angels?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So do that if you want. Do it now.
We send good angels, we send you goodwill.
Goodwill, goodwill.
Okay, the date is now the
Angels,
14th of February, 2023.
Outpouring is the fulfillment
Did
of
you
your.
hear me?
No,
Stop talking and listening. Listen, the date, because you sent the good wishes, has moved forward. What is the new date? Valentine's Day,
Valentine's Day,
2023.
yeah.
2020.
Wow.
Why? Why?
You completely.
Because the
Okay, you
support.
cannot listen carefully so we can finish the conference. Chris's family wants him and some of you need to go to the bathroom. Listen carefully. You cannot do the role of the angels, but you can send good wishes,
Yes.
okay?
Send
And if you
good
send your good wishes, that releases so many things, okay? And the fact that it's 2 days after the birth of who? What's her name?
John.
John.
Hey, John, with a J, John. The
John.
reason, you know, certainly somebody like Michael, Gabriel, they all want healing. They all want to do it. They will do whatever it takes. If they have to knock it out in 48 hours, they're going to do it. Right? This is not even a 3-hour conversation, and we've already moved the date just by talking about central themes. And In some cases, okay, darling, by healing, yes.
Okay,
So we've
Number
achieved much more than what I wanted to achieve today.
Number
I
5.
basically wanted to try the gate, to get the gate to move forward about 6 weeks.
okay. What was the-
We vastly improved the dates in 6 weeks. Okay, so if you want to have a conversation regarding time sync, that's another story. I will discuss that, but that's just the fact that time is a created reality and how it syncs or doesn't sync. It doesn't speak to God being able to relax. I didn't hang all my night shoes and slippers on time syncing. I'm not Google trying to sync everything to my app. So we can discuss that another time. So let me just give you a conclusion. And I did promise you to try to make a stab at femininity here. Ladies,
Yes, sir.
does it make you feel better thinking, knowing, believing, or understanding that archangels, whatever their gender, should be able to reunite with their souls?
Yes,
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
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 Well, you don't need channeling to tell each other why. You can tell the men why you feel it or think it. You can liaise with Mother God about it, as an example of Kathleen and I connecting in heart. But it just has to be on record that you've said that and feel that and think that, and you probably should, document why and send it in your good wishes as human women to other men on earth and to men and women in the spirit world and to the male and female angels. And don't forget, ladies, to send it to the children in an age-appropriate message. Children's books, how would you word it to angelic children? What is it? What is it? Why is it good? And why are you telling angelic children it's good? Having said that, I can change my description of self about being relaxed. I'm not relaxed. I'm mostly relaxed.
Okay, okay.
Not fully. I still have
Yeah.
to, hand on heart, share as the creator everything that needs to be shared in the realm of soul with these angels that have been held back. Okay. I've always channeled to Chris that the reason this is a good idea is that puts angels in a position to be grateful to human beings, because you do that, then they resolve it. They've got a gift, they therefore feel grateful. The reason I held back some of the angelic development is I wanted proper human development, and then I wanted the two communities to be able to express gratitude to each other and to be grateful for what each other gives to each other in their lives, using the word that Mark has affirmed, that life also refers to angels. So we are there. Okay, we haven't been there before. 20 minutes past the hour, if you want, is the first time in history where we got to the point where angels and human beings can finally be fully and completely grateful for one another. Do you need me just to clarify instead of just making a declaration? Why? You can be grateful because you've heard a lot of stuff about angels and you've learned about their history. You can express gratitude for what they've been through. Yes, you can find your own reason to be grateful for angels. And you've got more information which allows you to have a more intelligent conversation, communication, prayer, offering, reflection. But they also have seen what you've done and they've seen your investment and they have the promise of love in their life and the promise of reconciliation to their soul. They also can be grateful. Also, they can be joyful. Now, Lucifer is going to come. I am not joyful, Lucifer. I am exuberant.
Yeah.
I have never in my entire existence experienced exuberance like this before. One, I don't have to have my second son go through the nonsense
Yeah.
that normally befuddles people born in that position. And two, I can comfort my wife. One, I've got some damn good tips from Mark and Kim about staring each other's eyes and seeing soul. And you know, if you can give me tips on making love, I'll do my best to give you tips on reunifying Korea. But we've got some stubborn idiots out there, just like in Ukraine. We've got some really stubborn people, and I don't necessarily mean situated in Ukraine. Anyway, I don't want to go on a sidetrack about human conflicts. I want to just say I'm exuberant, and why, on behalf of all the angels. My wife will probably tie it up in a minute. Why are we angels exuberant? Because we know we're understood. We will understand ourselves. We will understand God. We will understand people. People will understand us. People will understand God. And people will understand their own self. And people will, in time, begin to understand each other. I can go to Jesus differently. So, you know, you're been in this quandary, there's been no movement. What can I do to support you? It may be simpler than we think. Maybe we have been second guessing the fallout. You know, is this just a matter of you openly and honestly sharing more deeply with God? Because now you have broadcast your situation, so maybe people can help, maybe we angels can help, maybe God can help. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying I, Lucifer, am in a different position to be able to go to Jesus and offer my hand of friendship. I'm going to tell you a little secret, and both Jesus and I are the kind of guys that like to be naked, okay? And we don't have any problem going to a steam room and having a conversation in the nude. And so I will put that kind of basis on friendship and say, do you want to just sweat it out and just be yourself, lose all attire, lose all degree of modesty, and try to understand love? He says, he just told me yes, so we'll do that. I want to clarify one point that has not been discussed before my wife comes, and that is archangelic concepts and angelic experiences about angelic homosexuality, including anal intercourse. That's ended.
What, really?
It's ended. Angels are no longer experiencing anal intercourse. They've all, as a result of this development, they've all gotten to the point of understanding what they want, what their desire is, where they've been, what their experience is. They've all understood what their prostrate does or doesn't do when a penis is inside their backside. The call of intimacy by bonding, or whatever you call it, between human males, whatever, but between angelic males, it's finished. It didn't finish by decree. It didn't finish by the work of God demanding it. Just finished by the very last angel saying, I'm not interested in that anymore. And
Hallelujah.
I've surveyed all of them who have had the intercourse. So we no longer have 1/3 of the angels fallen.
Mhm.
We don't have that. We have everybody on track now
Wow.
in the angelic world. 100% of angels on track. We're
Yay.
hoping the fact that we're all on track will really help in human growth, development, and ending conflict, but we can't do your portion of responsibility. So we can only help, just like you can only help. And we can only, do our best as male angels to try to stand back and let God work through female angels. And I promise as an angel to always stand back if the person on call and needed is not a male angel, but a female angel. You have my promise.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Sarah here. Ladies, are we good?
Yeah,
Hi, Sharon.
We good?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot dumped on your shoulders today, eh?
Yes, but not more than we can handle.
We got each
No, I
other.
don't mean you're laden. I just mean, it is a lot.
Yes.
It is a lot. Content is a lot, and there's so many things that can go off. And if you use the wrong word, you know, he said, but he didn't really say, he inferred problems. I'll try to help you with that. So I'm just going to give you one caution. Don't be eager. So don't just run out to share and then doing quote unquote, sorry, Andrew, using the phrase Chinese whispers. Don't use Chinese whispers that, you all know what I mean by Chinese whispers?
Yes.
No,
Oh,
Okay,
Okay.
that's the English way. What's the American way when you whisper in an ear and you whisper in an ear and you whisper in an ear and by the end of the line, it's a different thing. What
whisper
is that
down.
called?
Oh.
That's it.
Okay, so you're at campfire and
That's what
somebody says, Mary
Okay.
ate peanuts. And then when you get to the third person, they're saying, John likes pinochle. How the message changes?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What's the word American way to describe that? There's a
We're-
term.
Yeah, we're divided. Some of us are 19th century, others are 20th. It's either
Well, what are the options, Robert?
whisper down the lane from the 19th century or telephone from the 20th century.
Okay, so don't play telephone. Try to understand what was really said. And if you're not sure, just agree that you're not sure. That's the best method.
There you go.
I want to finish here. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I'm going to have Chris hang up. If you guys want to have a discussion now via Zoom, you need to signal that to each other. Otherwise, just end in your own time. Hey, guys, I'm overwent my welcome. I, Chris, have to bow out.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. He's out.
Right.
Bye. Okay, for the next 2 hours, let's talk about
I'm out.
that. Carry on, man. Be the last man standing.
Goodbye. Straits are leaving.
Goodbye, everyone. This was really fantastic.
Bye,
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
we missed you here.
I wish I could have been there. I just
Yes, we did.
We
just
missed
getting
you
over my
here.
cold. I'm feeling better now. If I was
did.
better.
We're going home.
Yeah, we can't hear you. You be fine.
Is the power, is there?
We can't hear you.
Monkeys in
No, I
there.
don't know why. I'm not muted.
We can hear you now. How are you doing?
When two people are talking over each other, the sound gets muddled up. That's the problem.
How are you feeling?
What? You've had echo problems and reverb problems on your sound from coming from your place the whole time. I don't know why. Maybe somebody else had their phone on so that there were two signals.
It's microphone.
Microphone's in front of the speaker.
Oh, that's a horrible place to put it.
What do you mean? It's in front, it's way down here on the.
But it created a lot of reverb and echo. So the
Okay.
microphone should be on the other side of the room, away from the speaker.
Yeah, but the cord's only so long.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm just saying that there was a lot of reverb, and I had a Zoom call with my family, with my wife's family, and my children were trying to sing a song. I mean, my grandchildren were trying to sing a song, and my wife's brothers and sisters, my in-laws, they were talking over it, and they thought they were just talking in the background. But when I listened to the recording later, you couldn't hear any of my grandchildren singing because that background noise had totally overpowered the song that they were trying to sing.
Oh.
Oh, I'm
And that's
sorry.
why you
I
lost.
was so sad. I was so disappointed in that. But that's what happens with Zoom. If there's two different sounds coming through at the same time, they sort of compete with each other and they can cancel each other out. Yeah. This was
We're
great.
sorry, Andrew.
You guys are having
sorry.
such a wonderful time. I wish I could be there with you.
On my honor, I will.
No, wait, the three of you were there yet to see, the three of you,
Sing what?
What am I saying?
anything.
Up the lazy river.
No, come on, no, the three, exactly.
You.
You'll never know. Please don't take our sunshine away. Goodbye.
Thank you.
You dearly.
You sound so good to me.
Feel better. Hi, Lola.
Come on in here.
Give Lola a deep kiss.
What we
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Kitchen.
That was what we. That's right, that's right.
That's when you fell in love with me. We blessed you.
That was the moment.
He said, we like this guy.
I love it. Holy moly.
Poor Andrew.
He's belaboring shit that we told him to give a shit about.
That's exactly.
No,
Ain't that the story?
Kathleen, no, Kathleen, do you know
What's that?
the story about that, when the three of you were singing? in your house?
I sang, somebody.
Yeah.
The two of us.
Here.
Enjoying singing at your